You are now tuned in to Go Time Dolphins with Charlie Touche and Kadeem Simmons, the Miami Dolphins podcast that's for the fans and by the fans.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. Go. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Go. Don't waste no time.
You're on mute. That's how we starting off the show. Starting off the show, coming in on mute, just like that. Behind the sticks. You see how we starting behind the sticks, Kadeem?
Again,
that's a delay of game. Behind the sticks. You just like a dolphin, boy.
That's definitely a conversation to have. Is this team has this team lost the discipline it had under Coach Flores? But we'll take that for another day. We were speaking literally just off air about William Hayes. Do you call him William Hayes or is it Will Hayes?
Dog just text me actually. We're texting right now. Nah, we don't call him William.
Okay, so Will Hayes. But talking to two of my friends about him today. For anyone who saw Monday Night Football and Chris Jones tackle/sack on Derek Carr, which got called back for a flag, and people were saying, well, the reason a flag was thrown, roughing the passer, was because Jones had his body weight on Carr, and I was saying that how a couple of years ago Hayes sacked Carr, tried to avoid putting his body weight on him, tore his ACL, and never played again. And it's there's been a lot of discussion, about the NFL's, getting soft, all this kind of stuff. And again, it's probably a discussion for another day, but I would just find it interesting that, the whole Will Hayes stuff should be, spoke about more because Hayes, his career ended prematurely simply because,
I don't know if it was prematurely, but it did end. It did end.
Yeah, it ended simply because he tried to protect Carr. And, once defenders start trying to distort their body to avoid a flag on a, definite sack, the game's gone.
When you ask someone 290 pounds to defy, or 300 plus pounds to defy gravity, you're asking for a lot. But yeah, it was crazy how you just brought up Will or Hayes, we should say. You just brought up Hayes. They don't even call him Will either. But so he just brought up Hayes and we was texting, and I'll never forget when I was also all right. But Hayes made a sack or pressure. I think it was a sack on Derek Carr, and the very next play got to him again, and it was the second time. It was 2 plays in a row. It was the second one where he tried to avoid putting his body weight on Derek Carr and end up tearing his ACL. And everyone thought it was like a sack celebration. Like, bro, what kind of celebration is that? But he was actually in pain because he hurt his knee and never played again. Like you said, ended his career. And you said prematurely, I ain't gonna lie, dog had a successful, long, fruitful career. You know what I'm saying? I think 13, 14 years if I'm something in the neighborhood. So it's unfortunate. And I don't know if they're trying to overemphasize now, post to a hit, right? But you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Y'all say that in London?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, bro. So you gotta find a way to clean up the product, bro, because this ain't it. And letting people, it's just not it, bro. Carl, like, what is? I was watching the game last night, and LB we was watching it, and I'm like, I don't know the rules no more. I ain't gonna lie to you, I really don't know the rules. So it is what it is. We'll figure it out. But it is Go Time Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins podcast that goes not only across the pond, but across the world. I'm your boy, Charlie Touche. I got my co-host, Kadeem Simmons, with me. It's always for the fans and by the fans. Your favorite podcast. So we in the middle of the week, Kadeem, and it feels like so long ago that we were 3-0. riding, we were riding the wave, bro. Raheem Mostert got a hard touchdown celebration. Did you see it?
I did, yeah.
When he was surfing, got up. Yeah, man, bro. So yeah, it seemed like so long ago when we were talked about as the best team in the league potentially, and in the power rankings. And I know it doesn't matter for me where we are when people are talking about us, whether it's no one talking about us at all or everyone talking about us, because it seems like no one wants to talk about us in a positive light anyway. But shout out to LB. LB says, how come no one talks about us? You know what I'm saying? When we're playing decent, no one talks about us. And then when they start talking, LB's like, no, I don't want y'all to talk about us now because it's gonna be too much pressure. Like, yo, you it comes with the territory, man. If we're gonna potentially pursue a ring, people are gonna talk about us. And again, this is a platform. We're not in the locker room. I gotta believe they're gonna block out all the noise in the locker room. But at the end of the day, we're gonna do what we gotta do on this podcast. We got the Vikings coming up, Kadeem. Before we get to the Vikings, anything else you want to bring up before we even dive in?
Yeah, quite a few things. To kind of add to, 3-0 riding high. The 49ers were playing bad. Baywatch was going superbly. It was like, we're going to win the Super Bowl and get a top 10 pick. And now the 49ers are 3-2. Not ideal, is what it is. Also, shout out to Tyreek Hill tweeting at Go Time.
Go time.
Listen, obviously the players in the locker room, block out the media. Clearly not blocking that Go Time Dolphins, so is what it is. Chia, if you're watching, jump on the show. We've had friend of the podcast Yvonne Holland on here, friend of the podcast Mars Gaskin. We can jump on your show, you can jump on our show. We can figure it out.
It needs to be said.
100%. Also, a bit of housekeeping very quickly. If you're only listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from, watch on YouTube as well. We're going to be having even more content out on YouTube. Some of it won't even be on the shows. It'll be bonus content. So at this point, you really will be missing out if you're not watching on YouTube. And before we talk Vikings, very, very quickly. So rumors are circulating that the Panthers are shopping Christian McCaffrey. With your boy Chris Greer, I know you and him are close as well. Do you think the Dolphins should be entertaining the trade? And if so, what are you willing to give up for Christian McCaffrey?
Channeling my inner Chris Greer, I always pick up the phone. I'm always picking up the phone. I don't believe Christian McCaffrey, CMC, works for the Miami Dolphins right now. I believe if we traded for Christian McCaffrey, we would pay him around the likes of $12 million a season. We pay Chase Edmonds $7.5 this year, fully guaranteed, and he's he's contracted to make $7.5 next year. But I imagine we're going to move on from him. I imagine. To bring in CMC right now, I love it. Don't get me wrong. If there's a way we could work it out and he we could get him for the Chase Edmonds rate or like 9.5 instead of 12.5. Yeah, I would do it. But he would have this year and 3 more years on his contract that we would be on the hook for. The last year of his contract, we can get out of and just eat like 1.5 in dead cap. So if we were to take him on now, we would have to, and you know, if it didn't pan out, we would have to eat some of that dead cap. I'm not interested in dead cap. So it's a no for me, dogs, when it comes to CMC. I would love to have the talent. I would love to have a weapon in CMC. But at the same time, we're not even sure, Kadeem, if it's our running backs or if the line needs to gel better. So imagine bringing in $12 million on the cap and losing a draft pick because you're going to lose a pick. And again, that's another team right there. What if you sent Gesicki to Carolina, right? And then maybe you could get back CMC. Maybe you give them Gesicki and a pick for CMC, and you just making stuff work. So, nah, I don't think it works out for us because again, you would really be learn on the job training. Like, is it the running back? Is it the line? Do we have the running back now and the line isn't right? I understand looking forward to the future where, well, you know you have CMC, so it's no longer the running back, and then you fix the line. Okay, that's cool. That's an idea. I'm not gonna lie to you. That is an idea. But how much money are you willing to allocate to the running back position? It's not my philosophy. I would not. Running backs take too much damage, too many hits. So I would opt to go younger for running back, like the draft per se, undrafted free agents. But you should be able to run the ball in the NFL.
Yeah, especially when CMC isn't the most, robust running back. He picks up injuries. The Dolphins don't need another player who spends way too much time on the sidelines at that money. And we already have, in my opinion, one too many weapon in Miami, which we aren't getting the best out of. We still haven't seen much from Cedric Wilson Jr. We've obviously discussed the whole Mike Gesicki situation. Bringing in CMC while we're still trying to figure out the kinks of this offense. Listen, more weapons is great. More weapons for Tua, perfect. Keep piling them on. However, like you said, even though Raheem Mostert just went off, it looks like the run game is starting to develop. If we've got Mostert going off, do you really need to add CMC to it? I personally don't believe so. So, listen, it's one of those things where, there's no harm in, picking up the phone. Listen, if in a ridiculously Madden-orientated world, that, hey, we'll take, give us a 7th, you get CMC, you can't say no to that. But it's not Madden, it's not you and your boy kind of going back and forth saying, I'll give you CMC for a 7th, if next year you give me this. It doesn't work like that. So, yeah.
I'll be real with you though, Kadeem. I didn't love Devontae Adams' compensation for Green Bay and Vegas. And then I was on this podcast saying, who's going to say, what Dolphin fan is going to say, oh man, we traded too much for Devontae Adams, right? No one's going to say that if you have Tua as your quarterback. Next thing you know, was it 2 weeks? Was it even 2 weeks? It doesn't seem like it was 2 weeks, but less than 2 weeks later, Tyreek Hill's a Miami Dolphin. And I said the exact same thing. Like, no, I wouldn't love to give up all that compensation, but I'm excited. I'm extremely excited. And I don't mind that we did it. You know what I'm saying? Because now look at us. So again, I would not want to give up that compensation for CMC because I would hope you can just find a running back that's successful, fix the O-line next season, and now you have everything you wish for without spending $12 million a season on CMC. But you mess around and you hear that whistle blowing and the Chris Greer train is rolling through and CMC is a Miami Dolphin. Charlie, you're not gonna get no pushback from Charlie Touche. Like, oh, why did we do that? Not at all.
Yeah, of course. And there's definitely an argument to be made that maybe a Christian McCaffrey again somewhat masks the deficiencies that the offensive line currently have. We've definitely seen, and again, you said it in the last episode. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. We've got one too many drops from Chase Edmonds. You hope you wouldn't get that situation from Christian McCaffrey. So all of a sudden, if you're a defensive coordinator, and you're looking at the Miami Dolphin weapons, and you've got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, and you've got Mike Gesicki, Tariq Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then all of a sudden 2 emotions, Christian McCaffrey out. There's not a single defense off the top of my head which can match up to those 4 skill players. And then you probably got a Cedric Wilson or, someone else around there. So it's a great problem to have, but it's a problem which right now, I understand, yeah, you're not really going to say no to CMC. However, in my opinion, can we try and get, some offensive line help, maybe some, cornerback help, maybe some, interior linebacker help. It's not a growing issue. However, strange things have happened.
Hey, let us know in the comments. Yeah, you right there. You. Let us know in the comments. Should the Dolphins try to acquire CMC? Should we try to go all in within this next year or two to try to pursue a championship and not worry about the cap space at all? Or should we stay the course and build and build and build and build so we don't have any cap problems 4 years from now? Let us know.
Yeah. I guess then onto the Vikings. And the problem that's going to bring. What do you have so far? I guess what's your opening takes,
bro? And we probably shouldn't start here, but we're gonna start here because we're not a professional podcast. This is what we do. You know what I'm saying? We can call whatever audibles we want. You feel me? This a mom and pop. You know what I'm talking about? Like, we can do what we want. Bro, the Vikings have this player that I love to death. And before I was putting together Touche's 24s, they had this player. His name is Alexander Mattison. No, he's not a starter. No, he's not a superstar yet. But I promise you this, when they re-signed Dalvin Cook and they had Alexander Mattison behind him, I felt like that was them shooting themselves in the foot, because you had to pay that running back. And we just got done talking about CMC. You had to pay that running back big bread, and Alexander Mattison is a starter in this league. The same way you got Tony Pollard behind Zeke over there, and the same way you got a couple other running backs like Kareem Hunt. He's a one, but there's a 2 running back system. Is the same way they got Alexander Mattison. Now, for the Dolphins' sake, it is what it is. We got to defend the run game. I just wanted to give a salute to Alexander Mattison. That man needs his flowers. He is as good as advertised, and I'm surprised they kept Cook when they had Alexander Mattison. Could have got him for the great value price. Someone's going to hit me with you get what you pay for, but I'm telling you, Madison is for real. But listen, Hard Rock Stadium, it's going to be a little warm. Might be a little wet. Not sure yet. And I wonder who's going to guard Justin Jefferson. Like, yo, this is not a good time to be banged up at cornerback. So you have Justin Jefferson coming to town. You have the receivers coming to town. Thielen is got some miles on his tires, but he's still a weapon. Kirk Cousins is not trash. He can dice you up as long as it's not a televised primetime game. Then you have Dalvin Cook that has the potential that Breece Hall just ran all over us. And you would think Dalvin Cook can do, if not the same, but more. So it's crazy how this was a W. When I'm looking at the schedule, this was a W. 3 weeks ago, this was still a W. And all of a sudden, this does not look as good of a W. And matter of fact, when I hand it over to you, I'm going to check the line to see where it is now. We were -3 before the season started for this game. So I wonder if the Dolphins are favorite or underdogs.
I have the privilege of saying I saw the Vikings live and they were in London. I sat there watching the game, and they don't scare you until they start scaring you. And I say that because Kirk Cousins does Kirk Cousins stuff. It's like this guy isn't the best quarterback. He's limited, and then he just starts finding Justin Jefferson. It's like, but he's still got Justin Jefferson, and then Dalvin Cook starts going. And like you said, this isn't the week. To be fair, there's no week to be without your two starting corners. But this isn't the week to potentially get X back with a dodgy groin injury and say, "Yo, go guard Justin Jefferson." Like we've seen what X with, as you say, losers limp how he's fared against Diggs and Bateman, and then they're gonna say to him, "God, arguably the best receiver in the NFL right now." Like it's not fun. It's not fun at all. In that case, in that situation, we need, like, as I say at some point, we need this pass rush to start coming home often and early. Jalen Phillips, we over here and others said this is going to be your year. Now will be a really good time to show up. Emmanuel Ogba. To be fair to Melvin Ingram, he has played well. But it can't just be him. We need friends of the podcast, Brandon Jones and Javon Holland. They've played well. The Sack brothers are still there, but it's now's the time with this defense to basically go back to carrying this team, because as of Tuesday, we generally don't know who the starter is going to be. Tua, from what we're hearing, is still doing fine, but it also seems like, from my opinion, the Dolphins are being extra cautious and I'm not rushing him. And I'm okay with that. You don't want to bring him in too early. I totally understand that. Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy Two Gloves, because he's in a concussion protocol, despite the fact that he doesn't have a concussion and has cleared the protocol so far, the earliest he can return to practice is Thursday. So we won't know anything until Thursday. And listen, there's a somewhat slim chance that Tua also sees the field on Thursday, but it's slim. If you're asking me right now, the likelihood is that Teddy Two Gloves returns on Thursday and starts on Sunday.
I hit the elevator button. I went down, going up. Go ahead.
Know what? I'm gonna leave it in a pocket. I'm gonna keep on going. So
my bad.
All good. We spoke about Teddy Two Gloves getting his first start as a Miami Dolphin, homeboy, hometown boy, against the Jets. It lasted one snap. Now you get Teddy Two Gloves at Hard Rock Stadium against the team he played for. Like, again, not that you need to get up for a game, but again, he's going to be so ready for this game. Obviously, if Skylar Thompson starts, that's a whole other issue. But I say we save that for the Thursday podcast. For me, it's just about, if you're asking me how I beat the Vikings, it starts with this defense. I think it starts and ends with this defense.
So the Miami Dolphins, before the season started, were a -3 favorite over the Minnesota Vikings. We are now +3 underdogs versus the Minnesota Vikings. And I ain't even mad at it, because we don't know what we're going to get. Are we down 2 quarterbacks, down 2 tackles, and down 2 DBs still? 2 corners? Are we? Because if that's the case, Kadeem, just like I said against the Jets when same old Dolphins were on this podcast, I don't know if all 4 of us would have taken Miami to beat the Jets. I know for sure I had to just go down with the ship and take the Dolphins over the paper planes, for sure. But if we're putting feet to the fire, I don't know, bro. That's tough to have Skylar Thompson, and we're gonna top it up with the preview game, the preview episode. But if Skylar is the quarterback, you want me to think he can keep up with Minnesota, who's more than likely gonna put up 23 points or more? You know what I'm saying? I gotta believe Minnesota's gonna put up at least 23 points on us. So yeah, that we'll say that for the preview. Matter of fact, we got some good stuff. Kadeem. Go Time Dolphins Fantasy Football League is going all the way down right now. All the way down right now. It is a 14-team fantasy football league. The winner will win $300. $300. You know what I'm saying? Hey, y'all know y'all pound conversion. Y'all trying to hit us in the head. But look. No. So winner wins $300 and a Go Time Dolphins championship ring. Gotta love it. Fantasy football championship ring. I want to say it is 14 teams, and I want to say 8 teams are tied for first place right now. 4 teams or 5 teams, excuse me, are tied for second. And one lonely team is just floating in the wrong direction. All right. But it's getting really real in this Go Time Dolphins Fantasy Football League. Same old Dolphins. Josh Kasker is in first. It has the most points. And I just talked to Sherrod. I just text Sherrod Steve, and I'm like, bro, if your team does not win this league, they have to fire the coach. Like straight up, man. Like Sherrod Steve's team is loaded right now, but we'll see, man. My bad. I had a little intermission. I had to get that in there.
I'm cool with intermissions. And again, you know, it's our show. We can go for a tangent whenever we want. We can start talking about 90 Day Fiance. I don't know if you watched that.
No,
I
ain't never. I heard about it. Matter of fact, I ain't even gonna say that. But I heard about it. I did hear about it. I was gonna say something, bro. I was gonna say something, but nah, I heard about it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, it's I feel like it's so difficult to gauge and preview this game or even discuss it because we have no idea who the starting quarterback is going to be. I would, you know, maybe this is going from social media.
Mm-hmm.
You ever watch Dragon Ball Z?
Vegeta,
Goku,
that's
Trunks.
my dog. Vegeta. Matter of fact, I had a snake. I named him Vegeta. But I missed it. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I wasn't on DBZ. Like, I was on Power Rangers. You know what I'm saying? So I can't really say that I know enough of it. But I could probably hang around the conversation a little bit, but not enough to really say I watched it.
The reason I bring up Dragon Ball Z is because as we're recording, Eazy-E, Eric Ezekama tweeted a GIF of Goku in the chamber, like with like a mask on his face, breathing, like he's getting ready.
I love it.
Are we gonna see some Eazy-E
I love it
on Sunday? And
the
interesting thing is as well, I'm not saying that kind of brings credence to the fact that Skylar Thompson is starting.
Mm-hmm.
But Skylar Thompson and Eazy,
they got a chemistry.
They have a great chemistry.
They got a chemistry.
So maybe Eazy just there, just like, yeah, I'm ready. Like, I'm pumped up, I'm ready. And you know, the flip side to that is, does that mean a Jalen Waddle or a Tyreek Hill, you know, is a bit banged up? Who knows? But again, we'll find out when the injury reports start coming out. Obviously, over here on Go Time Dolphins, we will have the injury report during No Huddle on the preview show. Check out the YouTube channel. We will have the final injury report up there on our shorts page. So yeah,
I'm thinking, Kadeem, it's not that Tyreek or Jalen will be banged up. Maybe they don't dress as many tight ends and they just run more receiver.
Well, they did put Stephen Carter on IR, and I believe, I don't know who got called up in his place, but yeah, maybe it's one of those things where you don't have a tight end, or who knows.
Maybe nah, I was about to say maybe they don't just Chase Edmonds and this is ride out with 2 running backs, but nah, I doubt they do that too.
Well, you know what? Speaking about the running backs, then, do you think? And again, maybe more preview stuff, but we saw friend of the podcast Mars Gaskin on Sunday and didn't look too bad. Do you think he's going to work his way into the rotation more, and potentially take snaps away from Chase Edmonds? I guess.
I think we seen more of 40 acres and a Hellcat because Savant Ahmed was banged up. So they had Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, and Ahmed dressing for the most of the season, really. I think every game this season, that was the rotation. And even though Ahmed didn't get any looks or touch, I don't know if he got any touches, but he didn't really get any significant play time. It was just Edmonds and Mostert. So after 2 drops this game, I think this was more of a punishment for Chase Edmonds. Like, yo, you dropped too many passes in the past 3 games. It's time to put someone in. And because Myles Gaskin dressed, he was the reciprocant of playing time. So we will see if coach or when coach says you're off for punishment, Chase Edmonds. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta imagine this man gets paid 7. You know what? I don't have to imagine because we've seen this before. We've seen Malcolm Brown not get any touches, and we paid him $5 million a year. And we seen Jordan Howard not get any touches, and we paid him $5 million a year. So it'll be interesting to see if Coach McDaniel says, all right, I'm done with Chase. Or if he says you're on punishment for a game or 2 and you can dress, but you won't get any significant snaps. But I gotta believe, as a running back, and Myles Gaskin is in the last year of his contract. He wants to put something on tape. He wants to show people that he's worthy of another contract somewhere and get on with another team if he has to next year. So I am 14-team fantasy football league. I did go kick the tires on Myles Gaskin. Like, yo, should I put him on the bench and see if Chase Edmonds doesn't get any touches? Right. So I don't know, man. What do you think?
I think until a running back becomes a clear RB1, I think Mike McDaniel's going to, mix it up. But I also think it's a matter of he's always going to give guys an opportunity because, it's kind of like a running back by committee situation under him.
You don't think we got a clear RB1 right now?
I think Raheem Mostert probably, over the past 2 weeks, especially against the Jets, has become the clear RB1. But again, he's also someone who I think Mike McDaniel has so many different plays, so many different ideas that certain plays call for certain running backs, certain personnel. And I think we're going to see all the running backs see the field at some point. It's just a matter of when it comes to your number being called, what can you do? And against the Jets, Raheem Mostert was a hot hand, played really, really well. He got the most touches. Edmonds had a few drops. Gaskin, in you come, see what you can give me and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think right now, Mostert is RB1, but I do believe that there is definitely opportunity for others to, find their way into their rotation and basically earn more reps.
And Mostert has a history of not being healthy. So while we last episode talked about injury-prone players, that's another player that just can't stay healthy. That's more prone to injury than QB1. But there's definitely opportunity for running backs to come in and get significant touches. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to think about CMC because when Carolina talking about having a fire sale, I'm like, hey, DJ Moore's over there, but I mean, we got our receivers. Like it would, man. But yeah, I just started thinking about everything. What else, Panthers? It's like hey, what y'all call flea markets in London? Y'all call them flea markets? Y'all call them swap meets? What do you call them?
I don't think we call them. I think we have markets. What is a flea market first and foremost?
Yeah, like why? I don't even know why we call it a flea market. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would we call it flea? It's like a market where everybody sell used stuff and you have fleas on it or something? Like, why would we call it flea market? But anyway, hey, matter of fact, if anyone can help us out in the comments, why we call it flea markets, why we call flea markets, let me know, please, because I never like the term flea market. Like, why are we talking about flea market? But flea market is almost like and out west and the West Coast where like California and stuff, they call them swap meets. I don't know why they call them swap meets out there either. So flea market is more like a outdoor vendor gathering, and people are selling a ton of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's the best way I can really describe it. Like, imagine there are 40 vendors outdoors in a massive, Wembley Stadium.
Did you just ask me if I know Wembley Stadium?
See, don't get slick, bro. Like, no, you don't know Baby D, bro. So look,
you just asked me. Given that the night we met, we were both going to the same game at Wembley Stadium.
But that was a rhetorical question, bro. It was rhetorical, bro. So imagine Wembley Stadium, the parking lot turns into, is 40 vendors in the parking lot and they're selling stuff. In essence, that is what a flea market is.
We have boot sales. So like on a Sunday morning at like 5 a.m., there's like different, all around the country, people kind of gather in, not so much car park, but like fields.
Yeah.
And, open up their cars, tables, and have a bunch of stuff they're selling.
That's a flea market, bro. That's of sorts. That's a flea market of sorts, for sure.
Because we don't really have, we don't have yard sales of the people, as from, so UK listeners, if you've never seen a yard sale, think of the movie Toy Story, when I think someone accidentally buys, Toy Story 2.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And again, about I don't watch movies. Toy Story 2, when
you got a kid, bro. You this don't count. You had to watch this movie.
No. I've never seen Toy Story with my kid. Like, Toy Story is just something. Here we go. First date with Hannah. What did we watch? Toy Story 4. I kid you not.
Hey, this guy this man keep plugging the what do we call them? The humble drops. Look like, well, I'm getting married, boy. I shot my last shot. I rock with you. Salute to you, sir. Yeah, like, I rock with you. Congratulations. Go ahead.
But yeah, so Toy Story 2, I can't remember the guy who owned the toy shop or the toy barn. He sees Woody at a yard sale and he buys him, despite the fact that Woody wasn't actually for sale. So if you've seen Toy Story 2 but didn't know what a yard sale is, that's a yard sale.
I like it. We going into bonus time?
Bonus time it is, man.
Y'all know what time it is. Stay positive. Test negative. For Kadeem Simmons, I'm Charlie Touche. Thank you for tuning in this time. Make sure you catch us next time on Go Time. Already.
When it's your time, and it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. Go. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Go. Don't waste no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time.
I got something for you, bro. Roger Goodell has come out and said, not only do I think London can support a franchise, but I think London can support 2 franchises. So all of a sudden, it's not just going to be the London Jaguars. Like, it sounds like expansion may be coming to Europe. Are you interested? And not maybe Kadeem himself, but think on a bigger scale. Do you believe Europe can support multiple NFL franchises with the logistics of divisions and flying out and flying back and forth? Do you think it's possible?
I think it's a very loaded question. In terms of, would fans be up for, say, even 2 teams in the UK? Yeah, yes and no. You're not going to get, hardcore NFL fans who supported their teams for years jump over to this UK team. It's not going to happen. What will happen is people who are just getting into the NFL might go, do you know what? I'm going to start with this team because, it's my local team. It's all that kind of stuff. The logistics is that while Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which where the Dolphins played against the Jaguars last year, while that has an NFL pitch underneath the soccer pitch, Tottenham still play home games there. So you have to have a situation where for 8 weekends of the season, Tottenham can't be at home. So you've got to kind of have it partnered with that. You've then got to look at, okay, well, how is it going to work? Will the London team be flying to and from each week? I know that given where some teams fly from state to state, the time difference is somewhat similar, I guess, like in terms of 8 hours and stuff like that. But really and truly, would you have the London team play, 8 games on the road and then 8 games at home? What does that mean for the traveling team? Do you try and get the 8 London games at the start of the season and at the end of the season? And then you get a situation where, say, the London team makes the playoffs and gets home field advantage. Who in January wants to fly to London or to Munich or anywhere in Europe? They don't want to. So logistically, there is so much that needs work. But can it happen? Yeah, of course it can. 100% it can.
Maybe we should wait till we get that plane that could make it from New York to London in 80 minutes. You heard about that?
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that to be out for like 10 years before I trust it.
Yeah.
Like straight up, bro.
Thing, yeah.
Like, yo, I'm gonna need like a few runs before we jump on a Sonic jet that gets us from New York to London in 80 minutes. So man, I ain't gonna lie, this is pretty interesting. How about this, Kadeem? It says, and this is a conversation. I'm not sure who Roger Goodell is talking to, and this is a lot of information in here that you just covered too. But he's not just talking about how the Rams and the Chargers share LA. They were thinking maybe you just have a whole division over there. So now that's 4 teams. So I'm old enough to remember when Carolina Panthers weren't a team, when Jacksonville Jaguars weren't a team, and they came into the league at the exact same time. They were expansion teams. They came into the league at the exact same times, and we went from 30 teams to 32 teams. I'm old enough to remember when the Seattle Seahawks were an AFC team. That was a real thing. They were an AFC team. So when you're talking about 4 teams in Europe, there'll be a division of their own. And now it's less travel for the teams that are domestic, and it's less travels for those teams that are international because they'll play each other 8 times. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but then at the end here, it says something about, and what you brought up about travel. Travel is just one of the various issues to be resolved when it comes to putting teams in Europe. Plenty of players won't want to play there. Many free agents will target domestic markets. Some draft picks may even be inclined to refuse to sign with a team in London or Germany or wherever. So that's what it says. So yeah, man, I think it's very, very, very interesting. I don't think we're set up for it yet. But it is a conversation. And since we GTD and co-host is across the pond, why not talk about
it? It's funny. So whenever whenever teams travel to the UK, and as journalists we get to speak to players, one of the first questions is always, would you play in London? Or can you imagine a team in London? And they all say the same thing. Yeah, it can be so good, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. When you ask them, would you move to London? but because it's one thing to leave your family when you're flying around, the US. It's another thing to then move your family to London, or, what do you do in the off season? Do you go back to the States? Do you stay in London? It's especially where the pound is right now. Do you pay your players in pounds or dollars? Like there's so many variables. And again, if you're a top free agent, why would you leave? Prime example, who has the choice between the Dolphins and the Jets last year or this year, and he jokes and says, I chose Miami because of no state tax.
No state tax.
who is going to go to London? Like so your choice is London, where it's rainy 24/7.
24/7. It is gloomy in London.
Yeah, it's cold. Okay, London has a lot of sites, and I guess in your off time you can go watch the many soccer teams that are around London and stuff like that. But realistically, you're going to give up that to not play in Miami with the beaches and no state tax, and I would say Pitbull, but I guess Gloria Estefan, whatever music you like, it's yeah, and I guess as fans, yeah, selfishly I would love to have a team over here. I'd be there, try and get it every single week, but also there is an argument to be made that the novelty would wear off very quickly. It's great when you have 3 games a year, and it's 3 Sundays out of the year you're there. But
I'll be real, Seattle's gloomy too. No one wants to go to Seattle. No one's, you know what I'm saying? But it's still domestic. So I'll be real with you, Kadeem. You just said something, and I want to catch it before it slips. But I don't mind. I love London. I love London, bro. I'll be real with you. When people talk about moving football teams, I think it's the worst thing ever, because you have generations of fandom. You know what I'm saying? And then you rip. It's like almost taking out an organ of your body and while you're still alive. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I need this. How am I supposed to survive without this? Right? So you take it away from people, but business is stuff that we cannot control. Right? Now, again, we could talk about expansion, and I found my point, what you were saying. I think there's something to be said, Kadeem, when you're in London or you're in Europe and this NFL phenomenon comes once a year for 4 weeks. Isn't it? It's 4 weeks, right?
No, I think there's 3 games this year.
Okay, 3 or 4 weeks. We'll say 3 or 4 weeks. The NFL phenomenon is there. Some people don't even stay awake to watch the Super Bowl. You could attest to that, right? Not saying you're one of them, but people like they're not hooked yet. They're still. I mean, I remember me, LB and Bert was at the Saints versus Dolphin game in London, and they still had the rules up on the replays on the jumbotron, like flag on the play, roughing the passer. And then you have to, there's the rules of roughing the passer were up on the jumbotron because you're still trying to educate the fans. So it's one thing to be, oh, the NFL's coming to town. It's going to be a live 4 weeks. Yo, that's because the NFL is just a side chick to people in Europe. You know what I'm saying? The side chick is always fun. You know what I'm saying? The side chick is always, I don't have to keep you. You don't live here. You feel me? So yeah, it's fun when you come, but it's not, I don't want you all the time. So I think that's a hurdle to get over. Me as a fan, bro, I'm gonna be real with you. And I'll end on this. I imagine because all the foolishness that circles around the Miami Dolphins and Ross and this happened and that happened, and people are like, oh, they should move the team, they should take the team. It's never had any traction for real. Never, ever had any traction. And I'm like, bro, there's no way I can go for the Dolphins. Like, you know how the Ravens were once the Browns, you know what I'm saying? And now the Ravens have Super Bowls. Can you imagine what someone from Cleveland felt like when the Ravens won the Super Bowl? You feel me? There's a couple other teams out there like that too, like the Rams. The Rams went from St. Louis to LA and they won Super Bowls now. Like, bro, that's supposed to be St. Louis rings. Bro, I'm going to say something sinful on this podcast. If the Dolphins move to Orlando, bro, it might not feel the same for you. Like, you might be all right to rock with it. But for me, bro, it's like, this ain't the Miami Dolphins. This the SeaWorld Dolphins. This the Orlando Dolphins. You know what I'm saying? This is not the team that I sat on top of my house to watch on the Jumbotron across from 27th Ave and 29th Street. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is no longer the Miami Dolphins. If the Dolphins move anywhere outside of Dade or Broward County, they are no longer the Miami Dolphins. Like, bro, I can't do it. But if they move to London, bro, I think I
I
still.
was, I was just gonna say like, but if they move to London, I know you'd be over here.
I still. Hey, if the Dolphins move to London, I'm moving to London. I'm just saying.
And they become like the London Pigeons or something stupid like that. I think what could happen is the NFL could have a developmental league over here. I think that might be the most plausible, and I think they've had it in the past. I know there was definitely a European league because I know a friend of mine who covered the European League, for at one point in the UK that had an NFL newspaper. So I can imagine.
You talking about like NFL UK, NFL
Yeah.
Europe? Yeah, that used to be a thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can imagine them kind of doing that. So I guess the equivalent would be like how the NBA has their, is it D League or G League, whatever it is?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's D League now.
Yeah. But you have a situation where the NFL basically has, so you have an option. You can either go play in Canada, the XFL when that returns, or from February till March, or maybe even like March until June when it's a bit hotter, even though it rarely gets hot. It's a bit warmer.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're gonna have a developmental league. 2-3 months of football around Europe. The stadium won't be as big, but because really, that's like the end of football season. Those Sundays are like FA Cup, all that kind of stuff. So I can imagine a small 8-team league. In around Europe, you have, I don't know, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Wembley Stadium, Old Trafford. Probably get on Twickenham, the rugby stadium, which has hosted NFL games before, and you kind of say, cool. It's not a full-time NFL league, but that's kind of like a little preview to see, okay, how much traction is this small 8-team league doing in the summer? What are players happy over there? And you might find same way players played in the XFL and got called up to the NFL. You might see a few players, and it could be a nice way for players who get drafted or about to get drafted, put some NFL stuff on tape. I think that's probably the most likely because I just can't see unless it's a full division, I can't see having 1 or 2 teams in Europe, let alone London, and then having flying back and forth.
But then you would think, does that dilute the current product? You see what I'm saying? You see how they go crazy over there for the 4 weeks that the NFL does come over there? If you have a developmental league over there where the product is not as good as the current product, which the current product isn't that good either in Europe. So you have just call it the developmental league over there. Does that dilute the current product where it's a frenzy every time the NFL comes to town? Or do they get so tired like, well, we have it here now, and now I don't want it. So I don't know. I think we're a long way away from a division for sure in Europe, but yeah. I do think I do think the Jags can actually still play in London and make it work. But one team, maybe. I doubt 2 teams, but a division, in theory, it's the right thing to do, but I doubt it works.
But very quickly, if they are going to move a division over here, they have to realign the rest of the divisions and move Miami to the proper division because Miami should not be in the AFC East. We've done a whole episode on it. I'll link it here if I have to. If you're going to start messing around divisions, take Miami out of the AFC East, put them in the correct division, and there'll be balance restored to the NFL.
We'll win all the time in the AFC South. I'm just saying. Music.